The Mafia boss fired his secretary before breakfast. By lunch, he would realize she was the only person standing between him and betrayal. Rain streaked the windows of Moretti Tower as Maya Callahan placed her security badge on a black conference table. Around her, powerful men watched in silence. At the head of the room, Adrian Moretti looked colder than the Chicago skyline behind him. He had trusted her for 3 years, yet one folder of evidence was enough to erase everything. Most people know that pain. The moment someone believes a lie about you faster than they remember your loyalty. But this is not only a story about betrayal. It is about power, pride, and whether broken trust can ever be earned back. Stay until the end, like the video and comment where you are watching from. 3 days before Maya Callahan placed her badge on Adrian Moretti's conference table, she was the first person to enter his office, and the only person in Chicago who could wake him without fear. It was 5:45 in the morning, and the city beyond the windows still belonged to darkness. Rain had not started yet, but low clouds pressed against the towers along the river, turning every light below into a pale reflection on black glass. Adrian was asleep on the leather sofa near the fireplace. He had removed his jacket, but not his shoulder holster. One polished shoe rested on the carpet. The other still touched the floor as if sleep had taken him before he decided whether to surrender to it. Maya paused at the door. Most people who worked for Adrian Moretti saw a man who never became tired or hesitated. Maya saw the faint line between his brows that appeared after too many hours without sleep. She crossed the office, set a cup of black coffee on the low table, and opened the blinds. Gray morning poured across the room. Adrian opened one eye. "That was unnecessary. You have a city council breakfast in 40 minutes. Cancel it. You canceled the last one." "I disliked them then too." Maya placed a breakfast sandwich beside the coffee. "You also dislike subpoenas. Put on a tie." Adrian sat up slowly. His dark hair was disordered, and a shadow of exhaustion softened the hard angles of his face. For one brief second, he looked less like the head of the Moretti organization and more like a man who had forgotten how to rest. Then his gaze dropped to the sandwich. "I did not ask for that." "You did not eat dinner. You were not there." "I spoke to the kitchen." A corner of his mouth moved. "Of course you did." Maya turned toward his desk and opened the leather planner she carried everywhere. The pages were filled with precise handwriting, color-coded tabs, and notes that only she could fully understand. "Your first meeting is at 7:15. I moved it from Bellini's to the private room at the Langham." Adrian reached for his coffee. "Why?" "Bellini's has floor-to-ceiling windows and one service exit. The Langham room has 2 secure corridors and underground access." Caleb approved Bellini's. "Caleb approved it before the Kesslers started asking questions about your freight contracts." Adrian looked at her over the rim of the cup. "You checked." "I listen." "That was not my question." Maya met his eyes. "The original driver assigned to you this afternoon has a brother who lost $40,000 at a club controlled by Owen Kessler. I replaced him with Anthony Vale." Adrian set the cup down. "You checked his family." "I checked the risk." "You are becoming suspicious." "I learned from management." The silence between them lasted only a second, but it carried the weight of all the things they never said. Maya looked back at the planner. Adrian watched her longer than necessary. She wore a dark green dress beneath a fitted black coat, practical heels, and no jewelry except a small silver watch. Her chestnut hair was twisted into a low knot. 3 years earlier, she had walked into his office as a payroll analyst, carrying proof that one of his senior managers was stealing wages from temporary dock workers. At the time, she had been 27 and newly hired. The manager she accused was married to the cousin of one of Adrian's captains. Adrian remembered that first meeting with an uncomfortable clarity. Maya had placed photocopies of altered payroll records on his desk and kept the originals inside her bag. Mr. Moretti 12 employees were paid for 30 hours after working 50. Adrian had not touched the papers. "Do you know who signed those records?" "Yes." "Do you know who he is related to?" "Yes." "Then you know why everyone else came to me without evidence." Maya had remained standing. "I know why they were afraid." "And you are not?" "I am. I just do not think fear changes the numbers." That answer had made him look at her properly. Most people lied to Adrian in one of two ways. They told him what they thought he wanted to hear, or they hid the truth until someone stronger forced it out of them. Maya had done neither. The manager was removed before sunset. The following morning, Adrian offered Maya a position in the executive office. She had studied him across the same black desk. "Is this a reward or an attempt to keep me where you can see me?" "Both," she accepted. Since then, she had become part secretary, part strategist, and part shield between Adrian and every mistake his temper might have made. She managed his public companies without asking questions about the private empire beneath them. She understood which doors should remain closed, but never forgot the people behind them. When a driver was injured, she knew his wife's name. When a warehouse worker's daughter needed surgery, Maya found a way to add the family to a company medical program without making it look like charity. When Adrian wanted to close an entire freight yard because one supervisor had lied to him, Maya put the records in front of him and asked whether punishing 80 families would make the lie disappear. He hated that question. He kept the yard open. By 7:15 that morning, the private room at the Langham was secured. Adrian sat at one end of a long table with Caleb Russo behind his right shoulder. Silas Ward occupied the seat nearest the windows. Silas had silver at his temples and the controlled patience of a man who had spent years surviving dangerous rooms. He had served Adrian's father before serving Adrian. After the older Moretti was killed, Silas helped prevent 3 captains from dividing the organization and turning Chicago into a graveyard. Adrian trusted him because Silas had earned that trust in blood. Maya did not trust him at all. She stood near the wall, taking notes as men discussed port access construction bids and a missing freight shipment from Gary, Indiana. Publicly, the truck had carried imported tile. Privately, it had carried cash ledgers and sealed phones. The attackers had known the route. They had also known that the escort vehicle would stop at a fuel station for exactly 7 minutes. One driver escaped. The other, Luis Ortega, had been shot in the abdomen and remained in intensive care. Silas placed a photograph of the burned truck on the table. "The Kesslers are testing us." Adrian studied the image. "Then we answer." Maya looked up from her notes. Silas continued. "2 of their storage facilities sit outside Cicero. 1 fire would be understood. 2 would be remembered." Caleb's expression remained still. Adrian leaned back. "How many employees?" Silas frowned. "What? At the facilities?" "That is not relevant. It becomes relevant when bodies are found." Silas glanced toward Maya. She had not spoken, but Adrian knew she had already included personnel estimates in the briefing folder. He opened it. 36 day workers, 11 at night, most are contractors. Silas's mouth tightened. "They work for Kessler." "They load boxes," Maya said. "They do not choose who owns the building." Every man at the table looked at her. Silas's voice cooled. "This conversation concerns security." Maya closed her pen. "Then security should include the consequences of setting fire to a building full of people." Adrian watched Silas, not Maya. "No fires." Silas held his gaze. "Mercy will be mistaken for weakness." "It is not mercy," Adrian said. "It is discipline." The meeting moved on, but something in Silas's face remained behind. Later in the elevator, Adrian looked at Maya. "You could have waited until we were alone. You could have ignored the file. I did not. Then I saved us both time." Caleb faced the doors, hiding what might have been a smile. Silas stood behind them in silence. By noon, Maya was back in Moretti Tower preparing quarterly reports for the legitimate companies under Adrian's control. Moretti Holdings owned freight terminals, restaurants, private security firms, construction companies, and 6 pieces of waterfront property. The structure had grown so complicated that even experienced accountants needed maps to understand it. Maya preferred patterns. Numbers lied less elegantly than people. She was reviewing vendor payments when a recurring charge caught her attention. North Star Advisory. The invoice described transportation risk analysis. The amount was small, but the timing felt wrong. Maya opened the previous quarter. Another North Star payment had been approved 2 days before the Gary ambush. She checked the quarter before that. A payment had appeared before a private Moretti meeting location was compromised near Milwaukee. She opened Adrian's calendar. The first authorization had been entered while he was attending his aunt's funeral in Boston. The second had been approved while Adrian and Maya were aboard a private aircraft returning to Chicago. The plane had no secure network connection during that portion of the flight. Maya sat very still. Someone was using Adrian's authorization credentials. She printed the payment history, then stopped before the last page emerged. The printer belonged to the executive network. Every job was logged. Maya canceled the request and removed the pages already printed. Across the hall, Silas's office door stood half open. He was speaking quietly on the phone. "No," he said. "Move nothing until I confirm the route." Maya passed without slowing. Inside Adrian's office, she placed the documents beneath a stack of city contracts and opened the incident report from Gary. The surviving driver had given only a brief statement. The second driver, Luis Ortega, had been unconscious when police arrived. Maya checked the hospital information, collected her coat, and told the reception desk she was leaving for a compliance meeting. 30 minutes later, she entered the intensive care wing at St. Catherine Medical Center. Luis's wife, Elena, sat beside the bed with both hands wrapped around a paper cup she had forgotten to drink. Maya delivered an envelope containing emergency payroll support paid leave forms and extended medical coverage. Elena's eyes filled. "They said the company might let him go if he cannot drive." "Who said that?" "A man from the insurance office." Maya pulled out her phone. "What was his name?" Elena searched through several messages. The caller had blocked his number. Maya wrote down the time. Luis stirred beneath the blankets. His skin was pale and tubes disappeared beneath the hospital gown. His eyes opened only halfway. Elena leaned close. "Luis, someone from the company is here." His gaze moved toward Maya. "The route?" he whispered. Maya stepped nearer. "What about it?" "They knew." "Who knew?" His breathing became shallow. Elena reached for the nurse button. Luis's fingers closed weakly around Maya's wrist. "Kessler men." The nurse entered and guided Maya away as monitors began sounding. Outside the room, Maya stared through the glass while medical staff surrounded the bed. The North Star payments were not bookkeeping fraud. Someone inside Adrian's organization was selling routes to a rival syndicate. Back at Moretti Tower, Maya requested a private meeting with Adrian. His calendar showed a 20-minute opening at 4:30. At 4:28, Silas entered Adrian's office carrying a federal subpoena and closed the door behind him. The meeting continued for more than an hour. Maya waited at her desk. When Silas finally emerged, he adjusted one cuff and looked at her. "Still here." "I work here. For now." The words were soft enough to sound harmless. Maya held his gaze. Silas smiled and walked away. At 6:15, Adrian left for a meeting with his sister. Caleb followed him into the private elevator. Maya sent a message to Adrian's secure phone. "I found evidence connected to Gary. We need to speak alone." The message failed. She tried again. A notification appeared. "Administrative interruption. Secure relay unavailable." Maya looked toward the security panel beside her desk. The network vendor responsible for the encrypted relay reported through Silas. She deleted the draft from her local device and opened a paper notebook. If Adrian's communications were being watched, she needed proof before she approached him again. The following morning, Maya created 3 false shipping schedules. Each listed a different route for a shipment that did not exist. The first schedule named a warehouse in Aurora and was saved to Caleb's restricted security folder. The second named a location near Rockford and was saved under the finance director's access chain. The third named an abandoned warehouse outside Joliet and was placed in an advisory folder monitored by Silas's office. Only the destination changed. Everything else remained identical. Maya waited. At 2:17 that afternoon, a traffic camera recorded a black SUV circling the Joliet warehouse. At 3:05, 2 men photographed the loading entrance. At 3:12, the digital access record connected to Silas's folder began disappearing. Maya watched lines vanish from the screen. Someone knew she had set a trap. She copied what remained onto an isolated drive, disconnected her computer from the network, and called Caleb from a desk phone in an empty conference room. "I need access to the physical archive." "For what?" "Original vendor authorizations." "Does Adrian know?" "Not yet." Caleb was silent. Maya looked through the glass wall toward Silas's empty office. "If I tell the wrong person, She said there may not be any originals left. Caleb gave her a temporary code. 15 minutes. That night, Maya entered the archive 2 floors below Adrian's office. She found the North Star invoices' old authentication records and a handwritten ledger filed behind legitimate consulting contracts. One entry contained the initials SW. Beside them was a payment date matching the Gary ambush. Maya photographed every page, copied the associated digital records onto an encrypted drive, and removed only the originals connected to North Star. She left private account files untouched. She left cash records untouched. She left passport copies, property deeds, and family information exactly where they were. In the security room, Caleb watched her through a camera. He noticed what she did not take. Maya sealed the drive inside a small case and placed it in her leather bag. As she left the archive, the lights in the corridor flickered. At the far end, an elevator opened. Silas stepped out. Neither of them moved. His eyes dropped to the bag on her shoulder. Working late. Cleaning up someone else's mess. Silas smiled without warmth. That can be dangerous. So can leaving a trail. For the first time, his expression changed. Only slightly. But Maya saw it. She walked past him and continued toward the stairs without looking back. Silas remained in the corridor until the door closed behind her. Then he entered the archive, checked the North Star cabinet, and found the empty spaces where the originals had been. By midnight, he had altered the access logs. He inserted Maya's credentials into the North Star transfers and attached photographs of her meeting a private investigator months earlier. The dates were changed. The captions identified the man as a consultant connected to Kessler. He added a copy of Adrian's private family route. Then he placed everything inside a thin red folder. At 7 the next morning, Silas carried that folder into Adrian Moretti's office. Adrian stood beside the windows fastening his cufflinks. Maya had not arrived yet. Silas set the folder on the desk. "You asked me once to tell you if loyalty became a liability." Adrian looked at him. Silas opened the cover. "This time it already has." The red folder reached Adrian before Maya did. Silas remained standing beside the desk while Adrian turned the first page. There were access records from the private archive, copies of confidential shipping schedules, bank transfers connected to North Star Advisory, security photographs showing Maya entering restricted areas after midnight. The final photograph showed her seated across from a man outside a hotel near O'Hare. Adrian recognized him as a private investigator with rumored connections to the Kessler syndicate. He looked at the date printed beneath the image. 2 days before the attack in Gary. Silas said nothing. He did not need to. Adrian examined the pages again, slower this time. "Who verified this?" "The access records came from internal security. The payment trail was confirmed by finance." "And the photograph?" "A source I have trusted for years." Adrian's eyes remained on Maya's face in the image. She was leaning across the table. Her expression was serious. The investigator had one hand resting beside an envelope. The picture offered no proof of what had passed between them. That should have mattered. Instead, Adrian noticed the location, the date, and the fact that Maya had never mentioned the meeting. Silas placed one more document on the desk. It was the route Adrian planned to take the following afternoon when meeting his younger sister outside the city. The route had been downloaded using Maya's credentials. A memory entered Adrian's mind before he could stop it. His father had been killed on a private road outside Lake Geneva. Only 4 people had known the route. One of those people had sold it. Adrian had been 24 when he stood over his father's body and learned that trust could become a weapon in someone else's hand. Silas watched the old wound open behind Adrian's eyes. "I wanted to be wrong," he said. Adrian closed the folder. "Where is she?" "On her way upstairs." "Call Caleb." Maya stepped off the elevator at 7:23. The executive floor was too quiet. The receptionist avoided her eyes. 2 security officers stood near the conference room doors. Caleb was positioned beside them with his hands clasped behind his back. Maya stopped. "What happened?" Caleb looked at her leather bag. "Adrian wants you in the conference room." "Alone?" "No." The answer settled heavily inside her. Through the glass wall, Maya saw Silas seated 2 places from Adrian. She understood before anyone spoke. The trap at Joliet had not frightened Silas into running. It had forced him to move first. Caleb opened the door. 6 men sat around the black table. Each controlled a different part of the Moretti organization: freight, finance, construction, legal affairs, security, private operations. Maya entered without removing her coat. Adrian sat at the head of the table with the red folder in front of him. His face revealed nothing. That frightened her more than anger would have. "Close the door," he said. Caleb obeyed. Maya remained standing. Adrian opened the folder. "Did you enter the private archive last night?" "Yes." "Did you remove original documents?" "Yes." "Did you copy files onto an external drive?" Maya glanced at Silas. His expression was calm, almost bored. "Yes." A quiet movement passed around the table. Adrian's fingers tightened against the folder. "Did I authorize any of it?" "No." Silas leaned back in his chair. Maya looked directly at Adrian. "We need to speak alone." "Answer the question." "I did." "Then explain." "Clear the room." Adrian's voice cooled. "You are not in a position to make demands." "This is not a demand. There is someone in this room who cannot hear what I found." Silas spoke gently. "She has had all night to prepare a story." Maya turned toward him. "You seem very interested in hearing it." His eyes met hers. "I am interested in protecting the organization." "From me?" "From anyone willing to steal from it." Adrian raised one hand. The room fell silent. He removed the photograph from the folder and placed it in front of Maya. "Who is he?" Maya looked down. The image had been taken months earlier. The man was Thomas Reed, an investigator she had hired to verify the background of a company bidding on a Moretti security contract. The printed date was false. "So this is what he gave you?" Adrian's gaze hardened. "Who is he?" "His name is Thomas Reed." "Why did you meet him?" "To investigate a contractor." "Which contractor?" Maya looked at Silas again. The contractor reported through one of his companies. If Silas knew she had traced the false invoices to North Star, he could destroy the remaining evidence before Caleb secured it. "Not here." Silas let out a quiet breath. Adrian heard it as disbelief. Maya heard satisfaction. Adrian placed another document before her. "Your credentials were used to download my sister's route." "I did not download it." "The system says you did." "The system is compromised." "By whom?" Maya said nothing. Adrian stood. The movement made every man at the table straighten. 3 years, he said. "You have had access to my office, my calendar, my family, and every private decision I have made." "I know. If this evidence is false, give me one reason not to believe it." "I'm asking you for 10 minutes. "You are asking me to ignore what is in front of me." "I am asking you to remember who is standing in front of you." The words struck the room into silence. For 1 second, Adrian saw the woman who had walked into his office 3 years earlier carrying stolen payroll records. He remembered every warning she had given him, every meeting she had saved, every night she remained at her desk because he refused to leave his. Then his eyes returned to the route bearing his sister's name. Fear spoke before trust could. "Did you take the documents?" "Yes." "Did you copy them without permission?" "Yes." "Can you prove you did not send them to North Star?" "I can prove more than that." "Then do it. Not while he is sitting there." Maya did not look at Silas. She did not have to. Adrian did. Silas appeared wounded by the implication. That expression decided everything. Adrian closed the folder. The sound was quiet. Final. "Your access is terminated." Maya did not move. Adrian continued. "Your severance will be transferred by morning. Caleb will escort you from the building." The men around the table avoided her eyes. Maya looked at Adrian as if the others had disappeared. "When you discover why I took those files, do not come looking for me." Adrian's face became colder. "You no longer have the authority to tell me what to do." Maya's eyes shone, but her voice did not break. "That was never the kind of authority I had." She removed her security badge and placed it on the table. Then she walked out. Caleb followed her to the private elevator. Neither spoke until the doors closed. Maya stared at the numbers descending above them. "Did you know?" Caleb's voice was low. "I knew he had evidence." "That was not what I asked." "No." She nodded once. Caleb looked at her bag. "What did you take from the archive?" "Proof." "Of what?" Maya turned toward the camera in the corner. "I do not know who is listening." The elevator continued downward. Caleb reached inside his jacket and removed a plain business card. There was a phone number written on the back. "This line does not touch the Moretti network." Maya took it. The doors opened into the lobby. Rain struck the glass walls beyond the security gates. Maya walked through the turnstile, but her badge flashed red. The guard behind the desk hesitated. Caleb stepped forward and opened the gate manually. Maya passed through without thanking him. Outside, a black sport utility vehicle idled across the street. She noticed it before she reached the corner. The windows were dark. The engine remained running. No driver was visible through the rain. Maya turned east instead of walking toward the train station. The vehicle moved. She crossed Wacker Drive and entered the lobby of a luxury hotel. Inside, she passed beneath a crystal chandelier, walked through the restaurant, and exited through a service corridor beside the kitchens. The black vehicle appeared at the next intersection. Her pulse accelerated. They were not guessing where she might go. They were tracking her. Maya entered a crowded department store on Michigan Avenue. She rode the escalator to the third floor, selected a dark wool coat, and carried it into a fitting room. She emptied her leather bag onto the bench. Wallet, notebook, phone, cosmetics case, the encrypted drive. Nothing looked unusual. She ran her fingers along the interior lining. Near the bottom seam, she felt a hard ridge. Maya tore the stitching open with the metal edge of a nail file. A thin tracking chip slipped into her palm. Someone had placed it there while her bag was outside the conference room. She wrapped the chip inside a receipt and carried it downstairs. Near the entrance, a woman was arguing with a driver over a pile of shopping bags. Maya slipped the tracker into the outer pocket of one bag as it was loaded into a waiting car. The car pulled into traffic. The black vehicle followed. Maya remained behind the glass doors until both disappeared. Then she walked quickly toward State Street. Back at Moretti Tower, Adrian's morning began to fracture. His temporary assistant brought coffee with sugar. A meeting with city attorneys had been scheduled for the wrong floor. Two contractors who were never supposed to see one another arrived at the same time. At 10:15, Adrian entered the conference room and noticed that Maya's chair had been moved away from the wall. "Put it back." The young assistant froze. Adrian looked at the empty space where Maya usually sat. "Leave it." The assistant retreated. Caleb entered and closed the door. The vehicle following Maya used false plates. Adrian faced the windows. Silas had said the vehicle might belong to an accomplice. Caleb did not believe that. "She took only North Star records," he said. "She left account numbers, property files, private identities, and cash ledgers untouched." "She knew what she needed? Or she took only what she was investigating?" Adrian turned. "You think she is innocent?" "I think evidence should survive questions." Adrian's expression sharpened. "Be careful." Caleb held his gaze. "That is what she asked you to be." The words remained in the room after Caleb left. Adrian opened the red folder again. This time he read each page without Silas explaining what it meant. One access record showed Maya entering the tower network at 11:43 on the night of October 18th. Adrian remembered the date. His aunt's funeral had ended late. He and Maya had flown back from Boston after midnight. The aircraft had no secure data connection during the flight. Maya had worked in their paper planner while Adrian slept across from her. Adrian opened the lower drawer of his desk. Inside were several notebooks Maya had filled and stored because she never trusted digital calendars completely. He found October. Beside the date in Maya's handwriting were the words 11:43. Adrian finally asleep. "Do not wake before landing." He stared at the sentence. Maya could not have been inside Moretti Tower. He called Caleb back. "Verify the original timestamp." Caleb returned 20 minutes later with a security analyst. The photograph of Maya entering the archive had been taken on a different evening. The image metadata had been altered. The North Star authorization records contained an encryption key retired 6 months earlier. Only 3 people still had access to it: Adrian, Caleb, Silas. Caleb had been at a police station during one of the transfers. Adrian had been in Boston. Silence filled the office. Adrian picked up his phone and called Maya. She rejected the call. He tried again. Across the city, Maya stood beneath the great clock inside Union Station. Travelers moved around her with suitcases and coffee cups. Announcements echoed through the stone hall. Her train to Milwaukee would leave in 20 minutes. She planned to give copies of the evidence to an attorney there, then continue north to her mother's home. Adrian's name appeared on her screen again. She answered but said nothing. His voice came through quietly. "I know the logs were altered." Maya closed her eyes. 4 hours earlier, those words would have changed everything. Now they only reopened the wound. "Congratulations," she said. "You finally investigated." "Where are you?" "Why, because someone followed you from the tower." "You noticed." "I need to know you're safe." Maya looked across the station. Silas had just entered through the glass doors. He wore a dark overcoat and moved without hurry. 2 men spread out behind him. Maya tightened her grip on the phone. "He already knows where I am." Adrian stood from his desk. "Who?" "The man you trusted instead of me." Silas saw her beneath the clock. His hand disappeared inside his coat. Maya slipped the phone into her pocket without ending the call. Silas stopped several feet away. The crowds continued flowing around them. His voice was almost gentle. "Give me the drive, Maya." She held his gaze. "And if I refuse—" Silas stepped closer. "Then you will not leave Chicago alive." Silas stepped closer beneath the great clock at Union Station. Around them, travelers hurried toward platforms with paper cups in their hands and luggage rolling over the marble floor. A child cried near the ticket counter. A train announcement echoed through the vaulted hall. Somewhere above, rain struck the glass roof in a steady rhythm. None of it reached Maya. She saw only Silas. His dark overcoat was buttoned to the throat. One hand remained inside it. His expression carried none of the warmth he had worn in Adrian's office for years. The 2 men behind him separated without looking at her. One moved toward the entrance nearest Canal Street. The other took a position beside the corridor leading to the platforms. They were closing the exits. Maya kept her phone inside her coat pocket. The call with Adrian remained connected. Silas glanced at the bag on her shoulder. "Give me the drive." Maya did not move. "You framed me, compromised Adrian's network, and sent men after me. You will have to be more specific." A muscle shifted in his jaw. "The drive you removed from the archive." "I do not have it." Silas looked toward her bag again. "I know every route out of this building. I know the train you booked and the name you used. Do not make this difficult. You already made it difficult." His hand left his coat. He was not holding a gun. He held a plain black phone. The screen displayed a map with a blinking point that had stopped several blocks north of the station. Maya recognized the route taken by the car carrying the tracking chip. Silas studied her face. "You found it." She said nothing. "The tracker was expensive." "Then you should ask for a refund." For the first time, anger broke through his control. Silas stepped close enough that Maya could smell rain and tobacco on his coat. "Do you think this is a game?" "No." "Then stop behaving like you can win." Maya looked at the 2 men guarding the exits. Silas followed her gaze. "They will not touch you unless you force them to." "How generous." "I have always respected you." "You destroyed my career before breakfast." "I protected mine." The sentence was quiet, honest. Maya watched him carefully. People rarely revealed themselves all at once. They did it in fragments, usually when they believed the outcome was already decided. Silas believed he had won. That made him careless. Maya shifted her weight and looked beyond him toward the great hall. "Why North Star?" Silas gave a faint smile. "You know why. I know it moved money. I know someone sold roots. I know Luis Ortega was shot because of it." The name caused no reaction. Maya felt something cold settle inside her. "You knew he would be on that truck." "Drivers are assigned every morning." "You knew." Silas lowered his voice. "Men get hurt in this business. Luis is 23 years old. His wife is expecting a child. And Adrian employs him in a business that invites danger. Adrian did not give Kessler that route." Silas's eyes sharpened. "No, I did." Inside Moretti Tower, Adrian stood motionless beside his desk. Caleb had entered the office with 2 security analysts, but Adrian raised one hand before either could speak. Maya's phone carried the station sounds into the room. Silas's confession came through clearly. Adrian looked at Caleb. Caleb had already taken out his own phone. He typed a message to his team. Union Station, main hall, plain clothes only. Adrian reached for his coat. Caleb blocked the door. You stay here. Adrian looked at him. Move. If Silas sees you, he may use her as leverage. He already is. We need time. Adrian's voice dropped. Every second she is standing near him is time I gave him. Caleb held his gaze for one moment, then stepped aside. They entered the private elevator together. Back at the station, Silas watched Maya absorb his confession. You expected me to deny it. I expected you to care. Care is expensive. So is betrayal. Only when it fails. Maya felt the shape of the lipstick case in her coat pocket. The encrypted drive was hidden inside it. The handwritten ledger pages had already left the station in a courier envelope. She had sent them to an attorney before taking Adrian's call. Silas did not know that. He believed every piece of evidence remained with her. That was the only advantage she had. Why the Kesslers? She asked. Silas glanced at the clock above them. You are wasting time. So are you. One of the men near the platform corridor touched his ear. Silas's gaze moved toward him, then returned to Maya. No police, he said. No sudden movements. We leave through the west corridor. I am not leaving with you. You misunderstand the situation. I understand it perfectly. You cannot search me here without creating a scene. You cannot shoot me with cameras covering every entrance. You need me to walk somewhere private. His expression cooled. That can be arranged. Then why are we still talking? Silas studied her. Maya held his gaze and forced her breathing to remain even. She needed him angry enough to keep speaking, but not angry enough to act. Inside her pocket, Adrian was listening. She did not know whether that would save her. She was no longer certain Adrian could save anyone from the consequences of his own fear. Silas moved closer. Adrian was going to destroy everything his father built. By making the companies legitimate, by pretending legitimacy would protect us. You were afraid of losing money. I was afraid of losing control. The words came without hesitation. Maya almost smiled. At least one man in Adrian's world had learned to name his hunger honestly. Silas continued. Adrian wanted accountants, compliance officers, and lawyers making decisions that once belonged to men who bled for the organization. He wanted to turn soldiers into employees. He wanted fewer graves. He wanted approval from people who would never accept him. Maya looked at him. No, he wanted a future. Silas's eyes hardened. He wanted you. The noise of the station seemed to recede. Maya did not react. Silas saw the effort it took. A faint satisfaction appeared in his face. He asked your opinion before he asked mine. He moved meetings because you disliked the security. He spared men because you looked disappointed when he discussed punishment. That was his choice. It became his weakness. Maya kept her voice level. You were jealous of a secretary. I was disgusted by your influence. Those are often the same thing. Silas reached for her arm. Maya stepped back. One of his men moved closer. The crowd shifted around them, unaware of the danger forming beneath the clock. Silas lowered his voice. You made him hesitate. Men like Adrian do not survive by hesitating. No. Men like you do not survive when you cannot control him. His hand closed around her wrist. Pain shot up her arm. Maya did not cry out. Silas leaned close enough that his words touched her ear. Give me the drive. You already admitted what you did. To you. Not only to me. His grip tightened. Then his eyes dropped toward her coat pocket. The outline of the phone was visible beneath the fabric. Silas understood. He reached for it. Maya twisted away, but the second man caught her shoulder. Silas pulled the phone from her pocket. The call screen glowed. Adrian Moretti. Silas stared at the name. Then he lifted the phone to his ear. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Adrian sat in the rear seat of Caleb's armored vehicle as it moved south along the river. Chicago blurred beyond the rain-covered windows. Silas finally smiled. Adrian. Adrian's voice was almost calm. Take your hand off her. She has always been brave. You should have valued that sooner. Walk away. From what? The station, the city, my organization. You may still reach a border before sunset. Caleb turned toward Adrian. The offer was not real. Silas knew it. That sounds generous, Silas said. It is the last generous thing you will hear from me. Silas looked at Maya. Do you know what he will do once he has the drive? Maya said nothing. He will forgive you because he needs the evidence. He will put you back behind your desk. He will increase your salary and call it trust. Adrian's jaw tightened. Silas continued. Then the next time fear touches him, he will choose it again. Maya watched Silas's face. The cruelest words were dangerous when they contained truth. Adrian heard the silence that followed. Maya, he said. Silas held the phone between them. She looked at it but did not answer. Adrian spoke again. I know what I did. No, Maya said. You know the evidence was false. The words reached him clearly. That is not the same thing. Adrian looked out at the wet streets. The vehicle slowed in traffic near Madison Street. For the first time that morning, he had no command that could change what had happened. Silas smiled. You see, she understands you. Caleb's phone vibrated. His team had entered Union Station through the lower platforms. 2 officers were moving through the food court. Another pair had reached the Clinton Street entrance. Caleb typed a reply. No weapons visible. Keep crowd moving. Silas returned the phone to Maya's pocket but did not release her wrist. West Corridor, he said. Maya planted her feet. No. One of the men stepped beside her. Silas's voice remained soft. Your mother is in Wisconsin. Maya's face changed before she could stop it. Silas noticed. She visits the same pharmacy every Thursday. She leaves church through the south entrance on Sundays. She drives a blue Subaru with a dent above the rear wheel. Maya's pulse climbed. Her mother was not in Wisconsin. She had left 2 days earlier for a school reunion in Philadelphia. Maya had booked the flight herself and arranged the hotel under a friend's name. Silas did not know that. The details he listed were old. Maya forced fear into her eyes. Let him believe he had found the pressure point. What did you do? Nothing yet. If your men go near her, the evidence goes to every prosecutor in Illinois. Silas looked amused. You trust prosecutors now? I trust fear. You taught me how useful it can be. His grip loosened slightly. Maya reached into her coat with her free hand and removed the silver lipstick case. Silas's gaze locked onto it. She held it between 2 fingers. The drive is inside. The lie was only partial. Silas extended his hand. Maya stepped backward until the heel of her shoe touched the edge of a brass floor grate. If you take one more step, I drop it. Silas stopped. The men beside him did the same. People continued moving around them. A woman pulling a suitcase nearly struck Silas's shoulder, muttered an apology, and hurried on. Silas kept his eyes on the case. You will lose your only protection. No, I lose evidence. You lose the reason not to kill me. You think Adrian will allow you to destroy it? Maya looked toward the phone in her pocket. He already made his decision about me. The sentence cut deeper than she intended. Adrian heard it. So did Caleb. The armored vehicle turned onto Canal Street. Caleb glanced at Adrian. Adrian's expression did not change, but one hand had closed into a fist against his knee. Silas took another step. Maya moved the lipstick case over the grate. There is a release system, she said. What system? If I do not enter a code within 2 hours, the files are sent to Caleb, an attorney, and a federal prosecutor. Silas's face tightened. It was a calculated risk. The drive itself had no release system, but Silas could not know that. Maya had already separated the ledger pages from the digital records. Even if he took the drive, the conspiracy could still be proven. Silas studied her. You are bluffing. Then let the clock run. His eyes moved toward the station clock. The minute hand shifted. Silas looked at the man beside the platform corridor. The man gave a slight shake of his head. No clear exit. No safe way to seize her without drawing attention. Silas reached into his coat and removed a narrow folding knife. He kept it low, hidden beside his leg. Maya saw the blade. The crowd did not. He stepped close and pressed the point against the side of her coat. Put the case in my hand. Maya's breath caught. The blade pushed through the fabric and touched the skin above her ribs. Silas took her wrist again and turned her body so that she stood between him and the main hall. Now, Maya looked into his eyes. She had spent 3 years observing dangerous men across conference tables. She knew the difference between someone threatening violence and someone ready to use it. Silas was ready. She placed the lipstick case in his palm. He closed his fingers around it. The knife remained against her side. Walk. They moved toward the west corridor. One man went ahead. The other followed several paces behind. Silas kept one hand around Maya's wrist and the blade concealed between their bodies. To anyone watching, they might have looked like a tense couple moving through the station. Maya looked toward the glass entrance. No sign of Caleb, no sign of Adrian. She did not know whether the call was still connected. Silas had returned the phone to her pocket, but the screen could have gone dark. She needed to create time. What happens after you get the files? Silas guided her around a group of tourists. You leave Chicago. You just threatened my mother. That was persuasion. You sent men to follow me. Insurance. You framed me. Necessity. Maya looked ahead. The corridor narrowed beyond the public waiting area. Security cameras covered the first half. The far end led to loading access and service rooms. Silas needed to reach the blind area. Once they passed the cameras, he no longer needed her cooperation. You were going to kill me from the beginning. Silas said nothing. That was answer enough. Maya slowed. The blade pressed harder. Keep moving. I cannot. You can. You cut me. Silas looked down for 1 second. There was no blood. Maya drove the heel of her shoe into the top of his foot. Silas cursed and tightened his grip. She twisted her wrist toward his thumb, trying to break free. The man behind them lunged. Maya threw her shoulder backward into his chest. The lipstick case fell from Silas's hand and struck the floor. It rolled beneath a bench. Travelers shouted and moved away. Silas grabbed Maya by the hair and pulled her back against him. The knife rose to her throat. The station changed instantly. People screamed, suitcases overturned. A security guard reached for his radio. The 2 Kessler men opened their coats, revealing weapons. Then Caleb's voice cut through the corridor. Silas. He stood near the entrance with both hands visible. 4 members of his security team had taken positions among the columns and benches. Their weapons remained concealed, but their focus was unmistakable. Silas pulled Maya closer. The knife touched the skin beneath her jaw. Tell them to move. Caleb did not look at Maya. His eyes remained on Silas. You have nowhere to go. I have her. That is not an exit. It is leverage. Maya could feel Silas's breath near her ear. His arm locked across her chest. Caleb's gaze shifted slightly toward the upper balcony. One of his men was moving into position. Silas noticed. Stop. The man froze. Silas pressed the knife closer. A thin line of pain crossed Maya's skin. Caleb raised one hand. Everyone stays where they are. Adrian entered the corridor behind him. Silas's expression changed. Maya saw it. Not fear, satisfaction. He had wanted Adrian there. Adrian stopped 10 feet away. Rain darkened the shoulders of his coat. His hair was wet. His face carried none of the calm authority that usually silenced rooms. He looked at the blade beneath Maya's jaw, then at the mark around her wrist. Something inside him broke open. Silas smiled. You came quickly. Adrian ignored him. His eyes found Maya's. Are you hurt? She almost laughed. The question came too late and from the wrong man. Silas tightened his arm. Tell Caleb to pull his people back. Adrian did not look away from Maya. Let her go. That is not how this works. You have the drive. Silas glanced toward the lipstick case beneath the bench. I have a container. It is inside. Maya said nothing. Adrian saw the warning in her eyes. Silas followed his gaze. You still communicate without words. Remarkable. Adrian's voice lowered. You wanted me here. I am here. I wanted you to understand what she cost you. Adrian finally looked at him. You cost me. Silas's smile faded. I saved your empire after your father died. You preserved your position. I stood beside you when half the city expected you to fail, and sold my roots when I stopped obeying you. Silas's eyes hardened. You were turning the organization into a monument to her conscience. Adrian took one slow step forward. Caleb caught his arm. Silas raised the knife. Adrian stopped. Maya felt the blade tremble against her skin. Silas was losing control. That made him more dangerous. You listened to her before you listened to men who built this family, Silas said. She made you cautious, weak. Adrian's gaze moved to Maya again. She stood rigid in Silas's grip, breathing carefully so the blade would not cut deeper. Even now she was watching the room. The exits, the distance between Caleb and the nearest gunman, the hand holding the knife. She was still trying to protect everyone else. Adrian understood with a clarity that felt like pain that Maya had been doing exactly that in the conference room. She had looked at Silas before every answer. She had asked to speak alone. She had risked appearing guilty because revealing the evidence in front of the traitor could have destroyed it. Adrian had seen the warning and called it evasion. Silas spoke close to Maya's ear. Tell him to order Caleb back. Maya looked at Adrian. Do not trade the organization for me. Her voice was steady. The words struck him harder than the confession on the phone. She was still protecting him after he had thrown her into danger. Adrian's face changed. The anger disappeared. In its place came something colder and more focused. He understood what Maya needed. Not rescue without trust. Trust before rescue. Adrian lowered his hands. Then he looked at Silas. You were right. Silas frowned. Adrian continued. I cared enough to fear her betrayal. Maya watched him. Silas's grip remained tight. Adrian took a breath. You knew the accusation would reach the part of me that never healed. You knew I would see my father's death in every page. Silas's attention settled fully on him. Caleb remained still. The station corridor had gone silent except for distant announcements and the sound of rain. Adrian stepped half a pace closer. But you made one mistake. Silas's eyes narrowed. What mistake? Adrian looked at Maya. She knows me better than you do. Maya moved. She dropped her weight and twisted toward the hand holding the knife. At the same instant, Caleb's man on the balcony threw a metal flashlight against the wall behind Silas. The sound cracked through the corridor. Silas turned. Maya drove her elbow into his ribs. His grip loosened. She caught his wrist with both hands and forced the blade away from her throat. Silas shoved her forward. Adrian reached her before she hit the floor. Caleb's team surged toward the two gunmen. One Kessler man ran toward the platform entrance. The other reached inside his coat. Caleb struck his arm aside before the weapon cleared the fabric. Passengers screamed and scattered. Silas tried to move toward the service corridor. Adrian released Maya and intercepted him. Silas swung the knife. Adrian caught his wrist and drove him into the wall. The blade fell. For 1 second, Adrian's hand closed around Silas's throat. Silas struggled beneath it. Caleb reached them. Adrian! Adrian did not respond. His grip tightened. Silas's face darkened. Maya rose from the floor. Adrian! Her voice stopped him. He looked over his shoulder. Maya stood several feet away, one hand pressed to the shallow cut beneath her jaw. She was not asking him to spare Silas. She was asking him not to become the thing Silas expected. Adrian released him. Caleb's men forced Silas to the floor and secured his hands. The remaining Kessler gunman was dragged away from the crowd. Police sirens approached from outside. Caleb looked at Adrian. We cannot stay. Silas knew too much about the organization. Turning him over in the middle of Union Station without controlling the evidence could expose Maya Adrian's companies and everyone connected to the Moretti network. Caleb directed his men toward the service exit. Silas laughed once as they pulled him upright. You think this ends with me? Adrian stepped closer. It ends with you. Silas looked at Maya. The Kesslers already have tomorrow's route. Adrian's expression changed. Silas saw it and smiled. Your sister, the lake house, every vehicle. Caleb turned toward Adrian. We need to move the family now. Adrian looked at Maya. She had gone pale, but her attention remained fixed on Silas. The route in the folder was real, she asked. Adrian nodded. Silas gave a quiet laugh. You see, even after everything, she is still solving her problems. Caleb's men moved him through the service corridor. The sound of sirens grew louder. Adrian approached Maya slowly. She did not step toward him. He stopped in front of her. Blood marked the collar of her coat. His hand lifted instinctively. Maya stepped back. The movement was small. It stopped him completely. Adrian lowered his hand. Maya. Do not. I need to see the cut. It is not deep. Caleb has a medic. I said it is not deep. Adrian looked at the space between them. Only a few hours earlier, Maya would have allowed him near without thinking. Now she watched every movement he made. He had turned himself into another danger she needed to measure. I should have listened to you, he said. Maya's expression remained still. You should have investigated. I know. No, you know now because the lie became impossible to ignore. Adrian absorbed the words. I was wrong. You fired me in front of 6 men. I will correct that. You cannot correct it by making another announcement. I can clear your name. You can clear the record. Her voice lowered. That is not the same as repairing what you did. People were being moved out of the corridor by station security. Caleb spoke with a police commander near the entrance, presenting a version of events that excluded the organization and the evidence. Adrian and Maya stood in the center of the disorder as if they were alone. He looked at the bruise forming around her wrist. Silas followed you because I sent you out without protection. He followed me because I found him. I made it easier. Yes. The answer held no mercy. Adrian had spent years surrounded by people who softened the truth before placing it in front of him. Maya never had. That honesty was one of the reasons he had trusted her. It was also why losing her trust felt so absolute. Caleb approached. We have a secure vehicle outside. Silas is being moved separately. Maya shook her head. I am not going back to the tower. Adrian looked at her. It is the safest location. It is the place where the compromised system is installed. We can isolate the network. And the people? Adrian had no answer. Maya reached into her coat and removed the lipstick case from beneath the bench where it had rolled. She opened the base and took out the encrypted drive. Silas had not checked it. His certainty had defeated him before Caleb's men ever arrived. Maya held the drive toward Adrian. He did not take it. Keep it. You need what is inside. So do you. I made copies. Adrian looked at her. Maya continued. The original ledger pages are already with an attorney. The drive contains the payment records, access logs, and North Star files. I can give Caleb the code. You do not trust me with it. Her eyes held his. Not anymore. The words were quiet. They landed with more force than anything Silas had said. Caleb looked away. Adrian took the drive. His fingers closed around the metal case, but his gaze remained on Maya. Come with us until this is over. I will help identify the compromised routes. I will help protect your sister and the drivers. After that, I am done. You were trying to protect me. I was. And I fired you. You did more than fire me. Maya reached into her pocket and removed the plain emergency phone Caleb had given her at the tower. She placed it in Adrian's hand beside the drive. You made me understand that 3 years beside you could be erased in 3 minutes. Adrian closed his fingers around both objects. Maya stepped past him toward Caleb. Where are you taking Silas? A secure site near the river. He cannot access a phone. He will not. He has emergency accounts that do not appear in the company network. Check every device taken from him. Look for numbers saved as legal services or insurance contacts. Caleb nodded. Maya continued. North Star is only one channel. There are 2 shell companies connected to the same payment pattern. I need an offline computer. We have one in the vehicle. Adrian watched her speak. Her mind remained clear despite the blood on her collar and the tremor she was hiding in her hands. She was still solving the crisis, still protecting his family, still doing the work he had accused her of betraying. Caleb led them through the service exit. Outside rain swept across Canal Street. A dark vehicle waited beneath the station awning. Maya stopped when Adrian opened the rear door. I am not riding with him. The words were addressed to Caleb. Adrian's hand remained on the door. Caleb looked between them. There is a second vehicle. I will take that one. Adrian stepped back. He did not argue. Maya entered the second car with a medic and one of Caleb's officers. The door closed. Through the dark glass, Adrian could see only the outline of her face. Caleb joined him beside the first vehicle. "You should have let her speak." Adrian looked at the car ahead. "I know." Caleb shook his head. "No, you know she was innocent. That is not the same thing." The words mirrored Maya's. Adrian looked at him. Caleb opened the passenger door. "Get in." Both vehicles moved into traffic. In the second car, the medic cleaned the cut beneath Maya's jaw. "It will not need stitches." Maya stared through the window. Chicago passed in streaks of wet light. Her phone had begun vibrating with messages. Coworkers asking what happened. A human resources notice confirming termination. An automated email stating that her access to Moretti Holdings had been revoked. 3 years reduced to system notifications. The medic placed a small bandage over the cut. Maya closed her eyes. In the vehicle behind her, Adrian turned the encrypted drive over in his hand. Caleb's analyst connected an offline reader. Maya had written the access code on a strip of paper. The files opened. Payment records filled the screen. North Star transfers, compromised routes, names of shell companies, photographs of Kessler vehicles, audio fragments from Silas's private calls. Adrian read in silence. Then a new file appeared at the bottom of the directory. Its title contained his sister's name. Caleb opened it. A map of the lake house filled the screen. 3 marked vehicles approached from different roads. The attack had been planned for the following afternoon. Then Caleb's phone rang. He listened for several seconds. His expression changed. "What is it?" Adrian asked. Caleb ended the call. The tracker Maya removed from her bag was not only transmitting location. Adrian waited. It was recording audio. Adrian looked toward the vehicle ahead. Caleb continued. "Silas's people heard everything after she found it. They heard us discuss the secure hotel on the emergency channel." "Which hotel?" "The Hawthorne House." Adrian's gaze hardened. "Move her somewhere else." Caleb was already dialing. The line rang. No answer. In the second vehicle, Maya's driver turned onto a narrow street near the Gold Coast. The rain had grown heavier. The officer in the front seat reached for his radio. Static answered. Maya looked up. The hotel should have been 2 blocks ahead. Instead, the driver passed the entrance. "Where are we going?" The driver did not respond. The medic beside her reached slowly toward the handle of his medical case. The officer in front turned around. His hand held a gun. "Give me the drive," he said. Maya stared at him. Then she looked at the empty place in her palm where the drive had been. For the first time that day, the man threatening her did not know Adrian Moretti already had what he wanted. The officer in the front seat kept the gun pointed at Maya. Rain hammered the roof of the vehicle. The windshield wipers moved too slowly for the storm, smearing the city into streaks of gold and gray. The driver passed another intersection without slowing. Beside Maya, the medic sat rigid with one hand resting on the latch of his case. The armed officer looked at her empty hands. "Where is the drive?" Maya let her fear show. Not all of it. Only enough to make him believe she had lost control. "Silas took it." The officer studied her face. "He said you recovered it." He was wrong. "Then where is it?" Maya glanced toward the medic. The officer noticed. His weapon shifted. "Both of you keep your hands where I can see them." The medic raised his hands. Maya looked through the rear window. The second vehicle was gone. Adrian and Caleb had been behind them when they left Union Station. Somewhere near the river, traffic had separated the cars. Or the driver had chosen a route designed to separate them. Maya turned toward the armed officer. "If Silas sent you, call him. He does not take calls right now. Because Caleb has him." A flicker crossed the man's eyes. He had not known. Maya continued before he could hide it. "Silas is in custody. Adrian has the drive. You are pointing a gun at the only person in this car who cannot give you what you want." The driver looked into the mirror. The officer's jaw tightened. "She is lying." Maya leaned back against the seat. "Then call Silas." The officer reached for his phone. The medic snapped open his case and struck the officer's wrist with a metal flashlight. The gun fired into the side window. Maya kicked the driver's seat. The vehicle swerved, struck the curb, and threw everyone forward. While the medic fought for the weapon, Maya hurled the open medical case between the front seats. The driver lost control. The rear lock clicked open. Maya threw herself into the rain. The medic rolled out behind her. The vehicle stopped several yards ahead. The front passenger door opened. Maya forced herself up. A black sedan turned sharply into the street and blocked the compromised vehicle. Caleb emerged from the passenger side before it stopped moving. 2 security men followed. The armed officer stepped out and raised his gun. Caleb fired once, striking his shoulder. The driver tried to reverse, but the black sedan pinned the vehicle against a delivery truck. Caleb's men pulled both men from the car. Adrian opened the rear door of the sedan. His eyes found Maya in the rain. She stood barefoot on one side because she had lost a shoe during the fall. Blood ran from a cut on her palm. Her coat hung open and wet hair clung to her face. Adrian crossed the street. Maya raised one hand. "Stop." He stopped. The rain gathered on his shoulders. Caleb moved between the vehicles, checking the injured officer and speaking into his phone. Adrian looked at the blood on Maya's hand. "Are you shot?" "No." "Did the bullet touch you?" "No." He took a breath that sounded almost painful. Maya looked past him toward the captive driver. "Search their phones before anyone calls the police." Caleb nodded to one of his men. The medic approached Maya with a folded cloth. She pressed it against her palm. Adrian stood close enough to help, but did not reach for her. The restraint was new. Maya noticed it. She did not reward it. Caleb took a phone from the armed officer and held the screen beneath the awning of a closed restaurant. There were 6 recent messages from a number saved as insurance. The final one had been sent 14 minutes earlier. "Bring her to the service garage. Recover the drive. No police." Caleb looked at Adrian. Silas had a second phone. Adrian's face hardened. "Where is he now?" "Still moving to the riverside." "Call the transport team." Caleb did. No one answered. A second call went to voicemail. The look in Caleb's eyes changed. Adrian saw it. So he planned both routes. Caleb turned toward the captured driver. "Who was waiting at the garage?" The man said nothing. Caleb stepped closer. Maya spoke first. "The Kesslers." The driver looked at her. That small reaction confirmed it. The plan had never been to take her to a safe hotel. Silas had arranged for compromised men to replace part of Caleb's escort. Once the vehicles separated, Maya would be delivered to Kessler operatives and Silas would escape during his own transfer. Adrian looked toward the city. The betrayal had not begun in one office or one network. Silas had spent years placing people where they would matter. Caleb ended another call. The transport vehicle was found near Lower Wacker, empty. Adrian's voice became very quiet. "Find him." Caleb sent teams toward the river, the interstate, and every property connected to North Star. Maya watched the captured officer being secured. "Silas thinks I still have a copy." "He will keep coming," Caleb said. Adrian looked at her. "You need a location he does not know." Maya's laugh held no humor. "The last location came from your security channel." Caleb accepted the accusation. "I will choose the next one personally. No radio, no company phone, no vehicle assigned through the tower." "Agreed." Maya looked at Adrian. "And he does not decide where I go." Adrian nodded. "You decide." The words sounded unnatural in his mouth, as if he were learning a language he should have known years ago. Maya chose the Hawthorne house, but entered through the kitchen under a name never placed in the Moretti system. 4 hours and 13 minutes had passed since Adrian fired her. The manager assigned a room without creating a digital reservation. Caleb inspected the suite himself. Adrian waited in the corridor. Maya noticed him through the open door. He did not enter. Caleb returned and handed her a plain key card. "2 officers are on the floor. Both are mine. No one else knows the room." Maya looked at the card. "Silas knew some of your people." "I know. How many? I do not know yet." That honesty was better than reassurance. Maya entered the suite. The door closed between her and Adrian. For several seconds he remained in the hallway staring at the brass room number. Caleb stood beside him. "You should go back to the tower." Adrian did not move. "She almost died twice because I believed him. She almost died because Silas betrayed us." Adrian looked at him. Caleb did not soften the next words. "But she was alone because you believed him." Adrian went back to the tower. Maya locked the hotel door, removed her wet coat, and stood in the silence of the suite. Her hands began to shake only after the door closed. A bruise circled her wrist. A bandage covered the mark beneath her jaw. Then her phone displayed an automated message from Moretti Holdings. Your employment status has been updated. 3 years had been reduced to a system notification. Maya placed the phone face down. A folder had erased everything because betrayal frightened Adrian more than loyalty reassured him. She crossed to the bathroom and washed the blood from her hands. When she returned, an offline laptop waited on the desk. Caleb had included copies of the files opened from the drive. Maya sat down and began working. She traced North Star payments through 2 additional shell companies. One paid a vehicle leasing business connected to the black sport utility vehicle that followed her. The other sent money to a security contractor that supplied temporary officers to Moretti Holdings. That was how Silas had inserted armed men into Caleb's escort. Maya opened the route files. 3 Moretti locations were marked for attacks. The first was the lake house where Adrian planned to meet his sister. The second was a legitimate warehouse near the Indiana border. The third was a private garage used by Caleb's security teams. Silas wanted simultaneous failures that would make Adrian look incapable of protecting the organization. A folder labeled Restructure contained Adrian's plan to remove criminal operations from the freight companies. Drivers would receive legitimate contracts while older captains lost hidden income. Silas was preventing Adrian from building a future that no longer needed men like him. Maya built a timeline. At 3:20, she sent it to Caleb through a new encrypted device. At 3:31, Caleb moved Adrian's sister from the lake house. At 3:40, Moretti Security emptied the warehouse near Indiana. At 4:10, police stopped a stolen van 2 miles from the private garage. Inside were weapons, forged security badges, and photographs of Caleb's team. The attacks were interrupted before anyone else was hurt. Maya found one final payment record. It led to a storage company near the Chicago River. Caleb's teams reached the location before sunset. Silas was not there. They found his coat, the second phone, and a bloodied restraint cut from one wrist. He had escaped through a drainage access beneath the building. Messages on the second phone connected Silas to North Star, the Kesslers, and the Gary ambush. One listed Luis Ortega by name and ordered the attackers to leave a survivor so fear would spread through the freight crews. Maya stared at Luis's name until the letters blurred. Then someone knocked on the hotel door. 3 measured taps. Maya closed the laptop. Who is it? Hotel security. The voice was male. Caleb had told her no hotel employee would come to the room without calling first. Maya moved silently toward the entry panel. The camera showed a man in a dark hotel uniform holding a folded towel. The jacket was correct. The badge was correct. His shoes were brown work boots. Hotel security officers wore black dress shoes. Maya backed away. A second shadow appeared beneath the door connecting the suite to the room beside hers. The handle moved. Maya pressed the emergency button Caleb had left on the desk. No sound followed. The man outside knocked again. "Miss Bennett, we need to check a water leak." The false name confirmed he had access to the hotel's temporary registration. Someone inside the building was helping him. Maya switched off the lights as the connecting lock broke. She opened the bathroom tap, blocked the sink with towels, and carried a brass lamp into the bedroom. 2 men entered the suite. Maya struck the fire alarm with the lamp. Red lights flashed as water spread across the bathroom floor. One attacker slipped. She threw the lamp through the glass partition and ran through the connecting room. A hand caught her blouse, but she drove her elbow backward and broke free. In the corridor, guests emerged as alarms sounded. Maya pulled another alarm, releasing the sprinklers, then disappeared into the crowded stairwell. Caleb came up the stairs with 2 officers. His team captured one attacker in the suite and stopped the other on the 10th floor. No guest was injured. Caleb found a phone in the first man's pocket. The final message had arrived 5 minutes earlier. "She has the files. Take her alive if possible." The sender was saved as insurance. Silas was still issuing orders from a third device. The captured man gave them the location of a garage near Cicero where he was supposed to deliver Maya. Caleb's team surrounded it before 6. Silas was found inside with cash-forged passports and a Kessler representative. This time, there was no escape route. At 7 that evening, Adrian arrived at the Hawthorne house. The hotel moved Maya to an unused ballroom. She sat alone at a round table beneath dim chandeliers. A fresh bandage covered her palm. Caleb met Adrian at the door. She knows Silas is in custody. Is she hurt? Nothing serious. Adrian looked into the ballroom. Caleb caught his arm before he entered. Ask. Adrian's eyes moved to him. Ask whether she wants to see you. For a moment the old resistance appeared in Adrian's face. Then it passed. Caleb crossed the ballroom and spoke quietly to Maya. She looked toward the door. After a long pause, she nodded. Adrian entered alone. He stopped several feet from the table. May I sit down? Maya studied him. Then she indicated the chair across from her, not beside her, across. Adrian sat. For the first time since she had known him, he seemed uncertain what to do with his hands. Maya waited. He did not begin with Silas. He did not begin with the attack. He did not explain his father's death or the root that had reopened an old wound. I believe the worst thing in that room was that you might have betrayed me, he said. I was wrong. Maya's expression did not change. The worst thing was how quickly I decided you were capable of it. Silence settled between them. Adrian continued. I saw the records. I saw my sister's root. I let fear decide before I asked whether the evidence made sense. You asked questions. I did not listen to the answers. No. He accepted the word. Maya looked down at the white cloth wrapped around her palm. If the folder had accused Silas, would you have fired him before checking the dates? Adrian did not answer immediately. Maya looked up. The silence answered for him. You trusted the man who confirmed your fear, she said. You punished the woman who asked you to think. I know. You keep saying that. Because there is no defense. Maya leaned back. That has never stopped powerful men from finding one. Adrian looked at her bruised wrist. I am not going to blame Silas for my decision. He manipulated you. I allowed him to. Because you trusted him. Because trusting him did not frighten me. Maya understood. Silas belonged to the world Adrian knew. She belonged to a life he wanted but did not know how to hold. That did not excuse him. Adrian placed a folder on the table. Maya's body became still. He noticed. This is not evidence against you. What is it? A written correction. Your termination has been withdrawn. Every person in that conference room will receive the same notice. Your salary and benefits will be restored from the moment I dismissed you. Maya did not touch the folder. Adrian continued. There is also compensation for the damage to your name and for what happened today. Compensation, not payment for silence. And the difference is decided by you. His jaw tightened, but he did not retreat. It is decided by your attorney. Maya looked at him for several seconds. What else? Adrian placed a second document beside the first. Chief Operating Officer of Moretti Holdings. Full authority over internal compliance, security review, and the legitimate companies. You would report to the board, not to me. Maya stared at the title. 3 days earlier, the offer might have represented everything she had worked toward. Now it looked like another locked door painted gold. You still think this can be solved with something you give me? Adrian's voice lowered. What else can I give you? Nothing. The word entered the space between them and remained there. Maya pushed both folders back. You can correct the record. You can pay what the company owes. You can change the system that allowed Silas to frame me. But you cannot appoint me back into trusting you. Adrian looked at the folders. I want you safe. I was nearly taken from one of your security vehicles. I am replacing everyone connected to Silas. That is necessary. It is not an apology. No. You keep offering me a place inside your organization because that is the only way you know how to keep someone close. Adrian met her eyes. Maya's voice softened, but not with forgiveness. I will not come back. He absorbed the sentence without bargaining. Not as secretary, not as chief operating officer, not under another title designed to make the same structure appear different. Adrian nodded once. I will clear your name whether you return or not. You should. I will change the investigation process. You should. I will make sure Luis Ortega's family is protected. You should have done that before I asked. Each answer stripped gratitude from actions that were simply his responsibility. Adrian did not resist. Maya stood. The conversation was over. Adrian rose as well, but remained on his side of the table. "I am sorry." Maya looked at him. The words were plain. No speech, no promise, no expectation. For that reason, they almost reached her. Almost. "I believe you regret it," she said. Then she left the ballroom. The following morning, Adrian called every senior member of the organization into the same conference room where Maya had been dismissed. Her chair remained against the wall. No one sat in it. Adrian stood at the head of the table with the red folder in front of him. He opened it. Then he tore every page in half. The evidence against Maya Callahan was fabricated by Silas Ward. No one spoke. She removed files because she identified a breach that security finance and leadership failed to find. She acted without authorization because the authorized system was compromised. The finance director lowered his eyes. Adrian continued. "I dismissed her without verifying the evidence. That decision was mine." One captain shifted in his chair. "Admitting that publicly may create the wrong impression." Adrian looked at him. "What impression?" "That you can be manipulated." "I was." The man's face changed. Adrian placed the torn pages on the table. "If anyone in this room describes Maya's departure as misconduct, they will answer to me." He turned toward Caleb. "From today forward, no employee is terminated for security violations until evidence is independently verified by 2 departments. No single advisor controls access review and discipline." Caleb nodded. "Whistleblower reports go outside the executive network," Adrian said. "You have authority to challenge any order I issue when the evidence has not been confirmed." A murmur passed around the table. Caleb looked at him. "Even yours. Especially mine." Silas was transferred to federal custody under charges that could be proven through legitimate records. The charges included corporate espionage fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, theft, and participation in the Gary ambush. The evidence connected Silas and the Kesslers without exposing Maya to Adrian's criminal operations. Luis Ortega regained consciousness 2 days later. His medical care and rehabilitation were paid through a permanent employee protection fund. Adrian removed his own name from the documents. He did not tell Maya. 3 weeks after the day he fired her, Adrian entered his office before sunrise. A cup of black coffee waited on the desk. It had been prepared correctly. It still tasted wrong. Caleb entered with a thin file. Adrian looked at it. "What is that?" "An employment verification request." Adrian's hand stopped around the cup. Caleb placed the file on the desk. Maya Callahan had accepted a position as Director of Operations at Harbor Line Transit. She had not asked for her old job. She had not asked for Adrian's recommendation. She had built a life beyond the reach of his title, his money, and his permission. Adrian read the name of her new employer twice. Then he signed the verification form and returned it to Caleb without changing a word. Adrian signed the employment verification form and returned it to Caleb without changing a word. It was the first useful thing he had done for Maya that did not require her gratitude. 3 weeks later, Maya Callahan entered Harbor Line Transit through a set of glass doors that opened without a security scan. The building stood several blocks west of the river, far enough from Moretti Tower that its black windows did not dominate the skyline. Harbor Line occupied 6 floors of a renovated brick warehouse. The elevators were slow. The coffee in the lobby was terrible. Employees carried their own boxes, argued openly in meetings, and laughed in hallways without checking who might be listening. No one lowered their voice when the chief executive passed. Maya noticed that first. At Moretti Holdings, silence moved ahead of Adrian like a warning. At Harbor Line, people complained about printers in front of the man who approved the budget. Her new office was smaller than the one she had used at Moretti Tower. It overlooked train tracks instead of the Chicago River. Freight cars moved beneath her window every morning, metal wheels grinding against steel as they crossed the city. A brass plate on the door read, "Maya Callahan, Director of Operations." She stood outside for several seconds before entering. The title felt heavier than she expected, not because she doubted she could do the work, because no one had given it to her as an apology. Harbor Line had reviewed her experience, interviewed her twice, checked her references, and hired her because she was qualified. She placed her bag on the desk and opened the blinds. No hidden trackers. No armed men in the hallway. No private elevator waiting for a man who believed every room should belong to him. Her first major assignment involved driver safety. Harborline had experienced 3 preventable accidents during the previous year. None had resulted in death, but the reports revealed a familiar pattern. Drivers had raised concerns about exhausted supervisors, damaged equipment, and unrealistic schedules. Their complaints had disappeared inside layers of management. Maya spent her first week speaking with drivers before speaking with executives. She visited loading yards before sunrise. She sat in break rooms with people whose jackets smelled of diesel and winter air. She asked what they feared reporting and who they believed would punish them for telling the truth. The answers rarely appeared in official documents. One supervisor shortened safety checks to protect delivery numbers. Another discouraged drivers from reporting damaged brakes because repairs affected quarterly bonuses. Maya wrote every name down, then she changed the system. Reports would no longer move through one manager. Safety complaints would be reviewed by 2 departments. Anonymous warnings could not be deleted by anyone connected to the accusation. No employee could be suspended until the underlying evidence had been checked independently. The policy was approved after a long meeting. One executive called it excessive. Maya looked at him across the table. It becomes excessive only when you assume the person accused matters more than the person telling the truth. The room went quiet. The executive approved it. Maya returned to her office and closed the door. For one moment, the conference room at Moretti Tower returned to her. The red folder, Adrian's face, her badge on the table. She pressed one hand against the desk until the memory passed. Then she returned to work. Adrian did not call her. He did not send flowers to Harborline. He did not arrange for the company to receive a Moretti contract. He did not appear outside her apartment or place a security team near her without permission. The absence was so complete that Maya distrusted it. She expected a message every time her phone lit up. None came. On the 6th day of her new job, Caleb called from a number she recognized. "I need your permission for something." Maya leaned back in her chair. "That is new." "I am learning from Adrian's mistakes." "What do you need?" "The Kessler investigation is active. 2 men involved in the hotel attack remain missing. I recommend security until they are found." "Whose security?" "Mine." "Does Adrian receive reports?" "Only if there is an immediate threat." "Does he know where I go?" "Not unless you allow it." Maya looked through her window at the freight cars below. One officer near Harborline, one near my apartment. No one enters either building, no tracking devices, no reports about my personal schedule. Agreed. And if Adrian asks for information, I tell him the arrangement belongs to you. Maya was silent. Caleb continued. He has not asked. That surprised her more than it should have. Set it up, she said. Caleb did. The protection remained almost invisible. Maya learned the officer's name, received his direct number, and decided when the arrangement began and ended each day. Adrian honored every condition. At Moretti Tower, changes appeared more slowly. The executive network was rebuilt under Caleb's control. Access records were copied to an independent system. No senior advisor could authorize a payment and approve its security review. Complaints about leadership were delivered to an outside legal firm. Adrian attended every reform meeting. He did not delegate the uncomfortable parts. When an old captain objected to the new rules, Adrian asked him why an innocent person should fear independent evidence. The captain had no answer. Adrian removed him from operations anyway. The legitimate companies continued separating themselves from the criminal organization. Freight drivers received formal contracts, medical coverage expanded, cash routes were closed. Several men who had grown rich through hidden payments left Chicago before Adrian could dismiss them. Silas had been right about one thing. The Moretti organization was changing. He had simply failed to understand that Adrian was willing to lose pieces of his empire to prevent it from consuming everyone inside it. Adrian's office changed too. Maya's chair remained against the wall for several days after she left. One morning he ordered it removed. Not because he wanted to erase her, because leaving it there had turned absence into a performance. Her office became the new compliance department. 3 analysts worked there beneath a director who reported to Caleb and an outside board member. Adrian never entered without knocking. The first time he did, the analysts stopped speaking. He noticed. "Continue," he said. They did not. He stood in the doorway and understood that changing policies would be easier than changing what people expected from him. He left without giving an order. That afternoon he met privately with a counselor named Dr. Everett Lane. Lane worked with police officers, soldiers, crime victims, and men who had spent their lives believing fear was the same thing as preparation. Adrian entered the office 15 minutes late. There were no guards in the room. No desk separated them. Lane pointed toward a chair. Adrian remained standing. "You asked for the appointment," Lane said. "I did." "Then sit." Few people spoke to Adrian that way. He sat. During the first meeting, Adrian discussed Silas. During the second, he discussed his father. During the third, Lane asked why Maya's possible betrayal had frightened him more than Silas's real betrayal. Adrian did not answer. Lane waited. Adrian looked toward the window. Silas belonged to the life I understood. And Maya? Adrian's jaw tightened. She made another life seem possible. Losing Silas meant losing a soldier. Losing Maya meant losing the proof that Adrian could become someone different from the men who raised him. That was why the false evidence had reached him so easily. It had not merely accused Maya of betrayal, it had confirmed Adrian's belief that anything gentle in his life would eventually become dangerous. Understanding that did not absolve him. Lane made that clear. "An old wound may explain why you struck," he said. "It does not remove the bruise from the person you hit." Adrian returned the following week. Maya knew none of this. She did not want reports on his progress. She did not want Caleb delivering private details as evidence that Adrian deserved another chance. Change performed for an audience was still a form of control. A month after she began at Harborline, Maya left the office after 7 in the evening. Snow had begun falling over Chicago. The flakes melted against the pavement, leaving the streets dark and shining beneath the lamps. Maya wrapped her coat around herself and started toward the train station. Across the street, beneath the awning of a closed bookstore, Adrian waited. He was alone. No armored vehicle stood at the curb. No guard followed several steps behind. His hands were visible at his sides. Maya stopped. Adrian did not cross the street. He waited until she saw him and allowed her to decide whether the meeting would happen. The traffic light changed. Maya remained where she was. Adrian crossed slowly. He stopped several feet away. "I was told this is the distance that does not count as following you." Maya almost smiled. "Almost." "Caleb told you that." He used stronger language. "Why are you here? To speak with you. You have a phone." "I promised myself I would not use it unless you gave me permission." "I did not give you permission to appear outside my office." "No." The word came without defense. Adrian looked at the station entrance. "If you want me to leave, I will." Maya studied him. In the past, Adrian had treated a refusal as the beginning of a negotiation. He had believed every boundary contained a hidden price. Now he stood in the snow and waited. "What did you want to say?" "I am not here to ask you to return." Maya's expression changed slightly. Adrian continued. "Your office has been converted into an independent compliance department. Your replacement reports to Caleb. The investigation rules you wrote are now company policy. You could have sent that information through an attorney." "I could have." "But you wanted me to know you changed." "I wanted you to know the system changed. And you—" Adrian met her eyes. "I am trying." The answer was smaller than a promise. That made it more believable. Maya looked toward the station. "What else?" "Coffee." She raised one eyebrow. "You came across the city to ask me for coffee?" "Yes." "You own restaurants." "I was advised that neutral territory would improve my chances." "Again, Caleb." "Dr. Lane." Maya looked at him. Adrian did not explain further. He did not present counseling as proof of worthiness. He merely allowed the name to exist between them. Across the street, a small diner glowed beneath a red sign. Maya had passed it several times but never entered. She looked at Adrian. "One coffee?" He nodded. "One." They crossed the street together. Inside, the diner smelled of cinnamon fried onions and old coffee. A waitress led them to a cracked vinyl booth near the window. Adrian waited until Maya chose her side before sitting opposite her. There was no head of the table. No one in the diner recognized him. A man at the counter complained loudly about a parking ticket. Two college students argued over a laptop. A waitress refilled cups without asking who controlled the room. Adrian looked strangely out of place. Maya removed her gloves. The waitress approached. "What can I get you?" Adrian looked at Maya. "Coffee with cinnamon, no sugar." Maya noticed. He remembered. The waitress turned toward him. "Black." When she left, Maya folded her hands on the table. "Why, Dr. Lane?" Adrian looked through the window at the falling snow. "Because I do not want fear making another decision before truth does." "That sounds rehearsed." "It is." Maya waited. Adrian continued. "I have said it often enough that I know when I fail to live by it." The waitress returned with their coffee. Adrian did not touch his. Maya tasted hers. There was too much cinnamon, but she said nothing. Adrian watched her. "You hate it." "It is coffee." That was not an answer. Maya looked at him. For a moment, something familiar moved between them. Then she remembered the conference room. The feeling withdrew. Adrian saw it happen. He lowered his eyes to the table. "I am not asking you to forgive me tonight." "Good." "I am not asking you to believe I have changed." Also good. "I wanted to tell you that Silas was charged." The Kessler representative accepted a deal. The men involved in the hotel attack were identified. Maya's fingers tightened around her cup. "All of them. 2 remain missing." "Caleb told me." Adrian nodded. "The protection arrangement remains yours. I received no personal reports." "I know." "You checked." "Of course I checked." A faint expression touched his face. Not amusement. Recognition. He had once called her suspicious. Now he understood why caution belonged to her. Maya looked at him. "Are you still involved with the Kesslers?" "The legitimate companies are not." "That was not my question." "No." Adrian held her gaze. "The private organization is reducing every operation connected to freight and construction. There are agreements that cannot disappear in one night. But I am closing routes that depend on civilian workers." Maya listened. He did not pretend the Moretti Empire had become clean because he signed new policies. He did not ask her to approve the pace. "You spared their warehouses because of me," she said. "I spared them because burning workers alive would have been wrong." "That answer took you long enough." "Yes." Maya took another sip of coffee. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. Adrian did not ask about her apartment. He did not ask whether she was dating anyone. He asked about Harborline. Maya told him about the safety reforms and the executive who opposed them. Adrian immediately said, "Give me his name." She stared at him. He stopped. The old instinct remained visible in his face. Adrian placed both hands flat on the table. "May I tell you what I was about to do?" "You were going to frighten him." "I was going to investigate him." "Without asking me?" "Yes." Maya leaned back. Adrian took a breath. "Do you want assistance?" "No." "Then I will not interfere." The answer seemed to cost him something. Maya watched him accept the cost. When they left the diner, Adrian did not offer to drive her home. He stood beneath the awning while she put on her gloves. "May I ask you again?" "For coffee?" "Next week." Maya looked at the falling snow. "Thursday, same place." Adrian nodded. She walked toward the station. He remained beneath the awning until she disappeared inside. The coffees continued. Once a week, always at the same diner, always at a time Maya chose. Adrian was never late. During the third meeting, he brought a report showing that Luis Ortega had entered rehabilitation. Maya read the first page. "The company paid for everything." "Yes." "Your name is not on the fund." "No." "Why not?" "Because his recovery is not a favor from me." Maya closed the report. At the fourth meeting, Adrian told her that Luis had returned home. At the fifth, Maya canceled because Harborline faced a shipment crisis. Adrian replied with 2 words, "Understood." Thursday. He did not send a car. He did not appear at Harborline. He did not offer to solve the crisis through one of his companies. When they met the following week, he asked how she handled it. He listened to the answer. Months passed. The two missing Kessler men were found outside Detroit and taken into federal custody. Maya ended the security arrangement. Adrian did not object. Harborline expanded its routes. Maya was promoted to oversee operations across 3 states. Adrian sent a handwritten note. "Congratulations. You earned every mile. No flowers, no gift, no invitation." Maya kept the note in a desk drawer. One afternoon, Harborline began negotiating with a contractor called Western Lake Storage. Maya mentioned the company during coffee. Adrian's expression changed. "You need to cancel that contract." The words came quickly, command before thought. Maya set down her cup. Adrian stopped. The diner noise continued around them. He looked at her face and recognized the mistake. "May I tell you what Caleb found?" Maya waited several seconds. "Yes. Western Lake Storage uses a subcontractor connected to the Kesslers. 2 former employees are under investigation for moving illegal weapons through freight containers. Do you have documentation?" "Caleb can send it to your legal department through official channels." Maya nodded. "Send it." The next morning, Harborline suspended negotiations pending review. The evidence proved accurate. At their next meeting, Adrian did not mention that he had been right. Maya noticed that too. The change between them did not arrive as a dramatic confession. It appeared in moments where Adrian could have taken control and chose not to. When Maya canceled dinner, he accepted it. When she disagreed with him, he listened before replying. When she refused to discuss the conference room, he did not force the memory open. When she finally spoke about it, months had passed. They sat in the diner near closing time. Rain moved down the window softer than the storm on the morning he fired her. Maya turned her cup between her hands. "I may forgive you." Adrian did not move. "That does not mean I return to the relationship we had." "I know. No, I need you to hear all of it." He nodded. Maya continued. "You controlled my salary, my access, my schedule, and part of my safety. Even when you respected my opinion, I lived inside a structure that belonged to you." Adrian looked at the table. "I will never work for you again." "I know. I will not accept protection I did not request." "Agreed. You do not get to use fear as an order." His eyes lifted to hers. "I am trying not to." "Trying is not the same as succeeding." "No." Maya searched his face. The old Adrian would have promised perfection because he believed certainty sounded strong. This Adrian allowed uncertainty to remain. "What happens when you fail?" she asked. "I stop. I listen. I correct it. And if I leave," Adrian's expression tightened, but his answer came without hesitation. "Then you leave." Maya looked away. That was the answer she needed. It was also the answer that hurt, because it meant he had finally learned that love could not exist where departure was forbidden. 2 weeks later, Adrian invited her to a charity event at St. Catherine Medical Center. The hospital had created a trauma recovery program for injured transport workers. Luis Ortega and Elena would attend. The invitation arrived by mail. At the bottom, Adrian had written, "This is personal. There is no business obligation. No answer is required." Maya accepted. The event took place in a ballroom overlooking Lake Michigan. Politicians, doctors, executives, and union representatives filled the room. Adrian stood near the stage speaking with a state senator. Men still watched him carefully. Power had not disappeared from his posture. But when Maya entered, Adrian did not gesture for her to come to him. He excused himself and crossed the ballroom. He stopped in front of her. "You came. I said I would. You look beautiful." Maya wore a dark blue dress and the silver watch she had owned since before Moretti Tower. "Thank you." Luis approached with a cane. He moved slowly, but he was standing. Elena walked beside him with one hand resting over the curve of her pregnant stomach. Maya embraced them both. Luis looked toward Adrian. "He visited the hospital." Maya turned. Adrian's face remained still. Luis continued. "After I woke up, he did not stay long." Adrian looked uncomfortable. Maya almost smiled. Luis thanked them both before returning to his table. Music began after dinner. Couples moved onto the dance floor. Adrian looked at Maya. He did not extend his hand immediately. "May I have this dance?" Maya studied him. Once permission had been something Adrian expected from everyone else. Now he waited for hers. Yes. They moved onto the floor. His hand rested lightly against her back. Maya placed one hand on his shoulder. They danced without speaking at first. Around them, Chicago's lights reflected across the dark lake. Adrian looked at her. I cannot promise I will never make another mistake. That is wise. I can promise fear will not make the decision before truth does. Maya held his gaze. That is still a promise. Then I will prove it slowly. Her hand relaxed against his shoulder. She did not say she loved him. Not that night. Adrian did not ask. Another month passed before Maya invited him into her apartment. 2 months passed before she allowed him to meet her mother. Adrian arrived with flowers, groceries, and no security team inside the building. Maya's mother asked him what he did for a living. Adrian looked at Maya. Business restructuring. Maya laughed before she could stop herself. It was the first time Adrian heard that sound directed toward him without caution. He remembered it for days. Early one Saturday morning, they met at the diner again. The waitress placed 2 coffees on the table before they ordered. Adrian pushed Maya's cup toward her. She tasted it. You remembered. I remember everything about you. Months earlier, the words might have sounded like possession. Now they sounded like gratitude. Maya reached into her coat pocket and placed a small brass key on the table. Adrian looked at it. He did not touch it. What does this mean? I rented a lake house for the weekend. His eyes lifted to hers. I am inviting you. Adrian remained still. And if I say yes, you bring groceries. A slow smile appeared on his face. Is that an order? Maya stood and reached for her coat. No, it is a test. Adrian picked up the key. For the record, I have become very good at following instructions. You are still terrible at making coffee. They stepped outside together. Morning light spread across the Chicago River, turning the buildings gold. Adrian opened the passenger door of his car. Then he waited. He did not assume she would enter. Maya looked at the open door, then toward the train station across the street. Adrian said nothing. After a playful pause, she moved past him and slid into the passenger seat. Adrian closed the door gently. He walked around the car and sat behind the wheel. The city moved around them as the engine started. For years, Adrian had believed loyalty meant staying when he commanded it. Maya had walked away and forced him to understand the difference between obedience and choice. He had cleared her name. He had dismantled Silas's conspiracy. He had changed his organization. None of those things had entitled him to her return. The first real change had happened outside Harbor Line when he stood beneath the falling snow and allowed her to send him away. The second happened each time she set a boundary, and he respected it. Everything between them had been built from those moments, not as a boss and his secretary, not as a powerful man and the woman expected to remain behind him. As 2 people seated across the same table, each free to leave, Adrian pulled away from the curb. Maya reached for the radio and changed the station without asking. He glanced at her. She raised an eyebrow. Problem? Adrian looked back at the road. No. Maya settled into the seat. The black towers of downtown Chicago disappeared behind them as they drove north toward the lake.